Hi, my name is Jiayun Shen. I'm from the Glenn Department of Civil Engineering in Clemson University, and today I'll be presenting the work that we prepared for the Natural Hazard Workshop titled Self-Reported Hardship and Travel After Hurricane Ida and Tropical Storm Nicholas. In 2021, Hurricane Ida, as a Category 4 hurricane, made its landfall on August 29th at western Louisiana area. That caused over 850,000 households and business to be without power. Tropical Storm Nicholas, 2 weeks later, in a similar geographical area, brought more than 10 inches of heavy rainfall that lingered for days. The rainfall complicated the already difficult infrastructure restorations for Hurricane Ida. However, the back-to-back storms provided us an opportunity to examine how residents perceive damages and adapt travel behaviors, particularly frequency and their own commutes when facing prolonged disruptions. 2 cross-sectional surveys were distributed among residents in coastal Louisiana and Mississippi following the storm. Our study elaborates on the behavioral context of resilience and recovery in the face of weather-related stresses and cascading infrastructure effects. We empirically examine the impacts of infrastructure disruptions, particularly transportation, power, water, and other utilities, on residents' perceived hardship and the residents' travel frequencies and commute adaptations. Individuals within a community perceive damages differently based on their personal characteristics and hurricane experience. And during the restoration process, residents also make adaptations to their travel frequencies and adjust their commutes before they can go back to their normal life. The results aids in a human-centric approach to the infrastructure restoration process. The human-centric restoration is a shift away from the conventional engineering approaches that focus on performance and physical failure. So for the research questions that we're addressing in this poster particularly is, first, what are factors associated with the self-reported hardship? And the second one is what factors are associated with the daily travel frequencies during restoration? How do residents cope with disruptions in their commute? For the survey data collection, we started our data collection on September 3rd and to 21st with the first wave. However, the first wave had a little bit of overlap with the timeline of Tropical Storm Nicholas, as you might noticed. That is because we have to work with our survey partners, Quadrix, and there are some communications issues that we have to go through, and we have to redesign the survey because Tropical Storm Nicholas appeared. So we basically need to tailor our survey questions to the actual experience people are experiencing, because one is hurricane, the other is tropical storm. Their experience for the survey options that were provided to respondents are different. And the second wave was collected from September 22nd to October 18th. A total number of 1,370 responses were collected. For the self-reported hardship for Hurricane Ida and Tropical Storm Nicholas, the hardship was measured on a Likert scale from 1 to 7. 1 means no hardship at all, to 7, extreme hardship. The analysis first compared the hardship differences between the 2 storm events and their correlation. And we developed 2 linear regression models to understand the relationship between the self-reported hardship and the various factors. What we found out is Tropical Ida's hardship is moderately correlated with Nicholas hardship, meaning if you're experiencing a hardship for Ida, you might also experience higher hardship for Tropical Storm Nicholas. However, there is a difference in mean for those both storm events. What we're seeing for Hurricane Ida is we have a mean of hardship of 3.29 compared to Tropical Storm Nicholas, which has a mean of 2.46, which is as expected because tropical storms magnitude is way lower than a category 4 hurricane. So for the two linear regression that we developed for Hurricane Ida and Tropical Storm Nicholas, something interesting that we have found out is as you get older, your hardship increase, and if you're race of white, you tend to perceive lower hardship for both storming events. However, age was not significant in the Tropical Storm Nicholas perceived hardship model. And what we have also found out is that vehicular damage had the highest impact on hardship, followed by utility outages for power. And for Tropical Storm Nicholas, flooding in residence has the highest estimated parameters for hardship. The post-storm travel behaviors. From the 1370 respondents that we obtained, we collected their number of trips from 0 to more than 10 of each respondent took on the most recent weekday. Then a follow-up trip diary recorded detailed trip information, including origin, destination, modes, and travel time for up to 3 trips. The average number of trips per respondent is 2.8. This was a 20% reduction in daily trips compared to the National Household Travel Survey, which averaged about 3.5 trips per person. A linear regression model was developed to understand factors affecting respondents' daily travel frequency on the most recent weekday. Both storm brought disruptions to residents' commute. 15.7% of respondents received vehicular damage, and 55.3% reported roadblocks or road closures. For respondents who needed to commute and experienced disruption, follow-up questions investigated how they coped with their most recent commute trips. So factors we found out associated with number of trips, the weeks relative to hurricane landfall. This has a positive impact on the number of trips. People being employed has a positive effect on the number of trips. Age, however, has a negative impact. The number of people within a household increase positively affect the number of trips people take on the most recent weekday. Being white negatively impact the number of trips people are taking. Other positive variables are public transit operating on that day, vehicle access for the respondent, the road closure or blockage, durations or disrupted access to medical care. This is measured in number of days. So for the coping with vehicular damage for commuter travel, the most common coping strategy for vehicular damage is choosing an alternative vehicle that the household already have access to. And in contrast, an alternative path was the most common coping strategy for road disruption. In conclusion, this poster highlights some of the utility outages that decision makers can consider prioritizing during the restoration process. For example, what we are seeing is power outage is the most influential for Hurricane Ida, for people's perceived hardship, and for Tropical Storm Nicholas, flooding in residence has the highest estimated parameters for their hardship. The daily travel frequency was reduced by 20% compared to the 2017 National Travel Survey. And we also find out what are the most common coping strategies for people who are experiencing disruption for their commute. Thank you. That's it for the poster presentation.